the yamas, or the often referred to as the social disciplines. So you have ahimsa, which is non-violence. Ahimsa. BKS Iyengar in Light on Yoga speaks to the idea that there's an even more positive connotation, where it's not just a refrain from violence, but rather a call for love, non-violence, thus compassion, love. So not just the absence of, but love being so hard to define in of itself. Sometimes it's, Nati. Easier to say not that, not that, not that. But ahimsa, non-violence, major thing. Whole religion's based on it. If you check out Jainism, pretty fascinating. Next you have satya, truthfulness, being truthful. That's truthful to oneself, right? And truthful to others as well. Things you say, truthful of word, truthful of action. For example, being truthful with yourself of where you are on even your yogic path, right? Being truthful that you don't have all the yamas or niyamas, or maybe even one of them, very much mastered, and that there's so much to do. And from that truthfulness, being able to move forward. But also the idea that truthfulness is the ultimate. Truth is, it just is. It's not a non-lying or a non-something, it's just truth. It's satya. You also have asteya, which is non-stealing. The idea of not wanting to take other people's stuff or covet others. The idea of contentment with what you have, so there's no need, non-need to steal from outside of oneself. There's also bramacharya, which is a very interesting one. It's called many things. I've heard it referred to as non-excess or moderation, celibacy, and many other things. But what I like the most is bramacharya being looked at as attachment to Bramah. Bramah being the ultimate, the creator. Bramah representing God, the ultimate, all-pervading. And so this idea of attachment to Bramah, bramacharya being always attached to, always in the presence of, aware of, connected to the Godhead, that which we spring out of. So always aware of that. And in that, then, there being a natural tendency to non-excess, to moderation, because you're not attached to other things that spring from the Godhead. You're actually always, within, and then thus contented with the source. And also you have aparigraha, this idea of non-hoarding or non-attachment. Aparigraha, just the idea of not needing to always have one's mind attached and fixed to all these things outside of oneself, so that those things don't take control. And those things can end up controlling you if those become the primary focus of your life and the driving force of your actions. And so and that can happen rich or poor, right? Whatever you have, whatever things that are these non-real objects that we have and pay attention to. And a lot of these yamas and niyamas on each side and even across perhaps interrelate with one another. So that's a way of almost saying non-stealing, right? Non-attachment, or bramacharya, right? Could be a aparigraha in a sense. So those are the yamas, niyamas, two branches, two of the 8 limbs of yoga, and kind of interesting because these two have nothing to do with movement, which for me is interesting because my first thoughts about yoga and introduction to it at a popular level was that it's just about twisting and turning in these postures and poses, and you find that the base of yoga has more to do, or at least starts definitely in the unseen realms, things that you don't see and that aren't about posing and posturing and moving, but rather getting the mind and body and spirit, kind of ready to even begin to get into these things, because everything is mind. So once the mind and the habits that help to cultivate the mind and the thoughts can be regulated or flowing in a natural, harmonious manner, then it is much easier to control these things we see, which come from the unseen things, like your body, and your breath, and eventually your concentration as well, and other things. And not necessarily in that order, but it's all related. So it goes on to asanas, pranayama, dharana, pratyahara, dhyana, and samadhi. So many things. All right, but we'll get to those. Thank you so much. Namaste.